Alright, and welcome back to A Talk in Depth. The movie I'm going to be reviewing today is Fist Fight. So, Fist Fight stars Charlie Day and Ice Cube and a bunch of other famous people, but Charlie Day and Ice Cube are like the two main stars in it. And they are teachers that work at a kind of a crappy high school. You know, you always had that high school wherever you live, and you basically send all the bad kids there because they can't really function in your high school. You know, they're vandalizing the property or doing illegal things, or like their GPA is just really bad and they're never on top of homework. Well, they basically get sent to this school, and that is where Charlie Day and Ice Cube work. So Charlie Day is an English teacher, and he basically plays Charlie Day just as a teacher. And the same thing is with Ice Cube. You know, Ice Cube has kind of been, you know, known as like the mean guy. He's the teacher where like his class doesn't mess around. His class is like dead on serious, but you know, in the halls or in the other classrooms, the kids just, you know, mess around. And so one thing leads to another, and basically Charlie Day and Ice Cube are pulled into the principal's office on the last day of school because Ice Cube did something, which I'll get into in a second. But Ice Cube did something, and basically Charlie Day snitches on Ice Cube and says, yeah, he did do this. But Ice Cube's like, no, I didn't do this. And Charlie Day's like, yeah, you did. And so ultimately Ice Cube gets fired, and he challenges Charlie Day to a fist fight after school's over. So let's talk about what Ice Cube did. Now, this is not a spoiler unless you really don't like knowing funny scenes in a movie. This isn't the most funny scene in the movie, but it's pretty funny. If you don't want to know what he did, just skip over this a little bit. I'm not going to go too in depth with it. But basically what happened was it's senior prank day, and it's on the last day. The movie takes place on the last day of school, and so all the seniors, or basically the whole school, but they call it senior prank day, the whole school is pulling pranks on the teachers and stuff. And so basically Ice Cube needs Charlie Day's help with fixing a TV because he's trying to show them a movie on the last day of school about the Civil War. I know, what a douche. Why would you show a movie on the last day of school about the Civil War? Anyway, basically the TV keeps turning off when the movie starts, and so Ice Cube's like, you know, can you help me fix this? And Charlie Day's like, oh yeah, sure I will. And the prank is that the kid has downloaded a TV remote on his phone, and whenever Ice Cube gets the movie in and working, the TV goes off, and he's turning it on and off, and Ice Cube figures out that the kid is doing it. Now, the first time Ice Cube figures out that the kid is doing it, he takes his phone and he gives like a quick speech, and then he throws it at the wall and breaks it. Now, the second time is after they've had the movie going for a couple seconds, and a girl sitting next to the dude who was messing with Ice Cube the first time, she gives him her phone with the same app downloaded, and like there's a slow motion sequence of the kid on the right sitting next to the dude who's like, no dude, don't do it. But then there's the really attractive girl who's like, yeah dude, totally do it, you'll be so sexy or whatever. And then there's Charlie Day who's standing up at the front of the class who sees it, and he's like, no, don't do it dude. And ultimately the kid does it, and so Ice Cube basically flips out and he starts smashing everything in the classroom, and then he leaves. And everyone's like, alright, that we get we made him mad, but why did he just leave? And Ice Cube comes back in with an axe, everyone runs out, and he smashes the kid's desk with the axe. And so that's basically what happened with the joke. I thought it was probably one of the funniest things I've seen in a movie in the past couple of months. I wouldn't say it's the funniest part of the movie, but it's pretty funny, and I really think they nailed it with that scene to really show how crazy Ice Cube was, because I mean, it's not the meanest prank that the kids are pulling on the teachers. Like, there's some really hardcore ones they pull on the teachers, but this one was just, you know, kind of toned down a little bit, but to still show that Ice Cube doesn't take anything from anyone. It just shows how like mental he is and how like afraid everybody is of him. And that really plays into the fact of how terrified Charlie Day is when he knows that he's going to have to fight Ice Cube eventually. Which is the next thing I want to talk about. I want to talk about the pranks the kids were pulling on the teachers. Now, it wasn't like they were the best jokes. They weren't like original things, you know. You've seen people do this in movies before, but like there's always, you know, someone that's drawing a penis on the board in Sharpie, or like, you know, someone doing something to like the principal's car. You've seen that in movies before. I think one of the funniest ones I remember, I don't know if this was one of my favorites, but it was something that I found original, was there was a horse that they used in the movie, and they did something to the horse. And if you've seen the trailer, I think they say it in the trailer. But I thought that was pretty original, pretty funny. I don't really remember, but basically I'll just say in the first 10 minutes of the movie, that's when like the biggest pranks are. So you'll be like, oh yeah, those are really funny. All in all, they weren't the most original pranks. It's not a bad thing about the movie, because the movie itself I really liked. But I mean, if you're gonna do pranks, try to come up with something original. But since I brought it up, let's talk about the issues I had with this movie. I think my biggest issue with the movie was the other teachers. Now, I get it. If you're writing a high school movie about the teachers, you have to have more than 2 teachers. And so the 2 other main teachers was the gym coach, who was played by Tracy Morgan, and one of the guidance counselors, who was played by Jillian Bell. I'm not the biggest fan of Tracy Morgan. I'm not going out of my way to see the next Tracy Morgan movie. He's a fine actor, but he's not one of my favorites. His character actually didn't bother me in the movie as much as I thought he was going to. He was kind of like Kevin Hart a little bit, jumping around off the walls and like kind of loud talking. But other than that, I mean, they didn't need to have him in this movie. He didn't really affect anything in the plot. He didn't bother me as much as Jillian Bell's character did. I think my issue with Jillian Bell's character is that since she's the guidance counselor, she's trying to like sleep with the students and do drugs. I just thought that was really like animated. It's not really what you would expect a teacher to be like, because most of them aren't like that. I mean, yeah, you sometimes look at the news and you see, that teacher slept with the student, but I mean, it's not the most common thing. And the way they portrayed her in the movie, I just thought it was like over exaggerated, because the way like she needs to have the drugs and she needs to be sleeping with the students was just like, I mean, granted, I don't know how a teacher acts when they need to sleep with a student, because it's not a normal thing. No teacher in their right mind would do that job, trying to just sleep with the students. But I mean, I don't know, something about her character just wasn't really funny to me. I didn't really think she needed to be in the movie. She didn't really have any effect on the plot, and I just thought she was kind of a waste of a character. And it's nothing on Jillian Bell at all. I really liked Jillian Bell. If you've never seen her TV show, I don't remember what it's called, but it's something about where she needs like a babysitter or something, because she's like really spoiled and kind of a brat. If you've never seen that, go watch that. That's really funny. But in this movie, I just didn't think she was that funny, and that's why I thought she was the biggest letdown of the movie, is because she's a funny actress. She's meant to be funny, but in this one, she just really wasn't. But those 2 things were really, honestly, the only 2 things that bothered me about this movie, because I actually really enjoyed this movie. I was really surprised by it. I mean, yes, we've had numerous high school movies that have either been extremely good, like Dazed and Confused or The Breakfast Club, but then you got some stupid ones that like Not Another Teen Movie, just no. But I don't know, something about this movie was just really appealing to me. There was never a moment where I was just like, oh, can we just get over with this scene? It's super boring. It was just really funny. So I think if you haven't seen Fist Fight, you should check it out. But let's get to the fist fight itself. Now, this isn't a spoiler at all. You can expect the fist fight does happen, because throughout the movie, Charlie Day is trying to find ways to stop the fist fight, and he ultimately ends up failing. But there is a fist fight in this movie. I loved it. Oh my god, it was so entertaining. I was just sitting there and I'm like, this is so good. Like, you get some stupid fight scenes in a movie nowadays, but this one was really good. I felt like it was actually real, because these were just 2 normal guys just fighting. But then you got hitmen fighting in other movies, and that's just stupid. But no, the fist fight in this movie was so good. And it's not a short fist fight. Like, it's a long one. Like, it's like, I don't know if it's less than 15 minutes long, but it's longer than 5 minutes. It was just so good, and I really enjoyed it. Probably the highlight of this movie is the fist fight itself. There was one other scene I really wanted to touch upon in this, and I won't say what it is because it's the funniest scene in the whole entire movie, but it involves Charlie Day performing with his daughter on stage. I did not expect anything from that scene at all. In fact, I actually expected that scene to be the worst, because you see those movies and the dad or the friend or whatever is performing with someone on stage, and you're just like, oh, this is going to be the terrible scene, because it's just going to be like, this is what brings us closer together as friends and family. And you always think to yourself, oh, that's just going to be the worst scene because it takes away from what the movie really is. No. This scene, like, oh man, it's a great scene. Funniest scene in the whole entire movie. So unexpected. So good. But all in all, Fist Fight, I really enjoyed it. If you have not seen Fist Fight, go see it. You don't need to, well, granted, this movie's been out for a while, but you don't need to see Rings. I haven't even seen it yet because I know it's stupid. But you don't need to go see Rings for the third time. Go see Fist Fight. I think you will definitely leave this movie very happy because it is a good comedy for a February movie. A February movie. Literally, the first, March movies don't really suck, but January and February movies always suck. And literally this year, I'm actually surprised there haven't been as many sucky movies as I thought. Been a couple, but not as many as I thought. But Fist Fight, very good. I think the grade I'm going to give it, I'm going to have to go with an A-. I thought it was really good. I think this is one I can't wait to watch again. Thank you guys so much for listening. I will probably have a couple reviews coming this week. I will hopefully film my Q&A. I got a bunch of questions for that, more than I was expecting. So shout out to anyone who gave me questions, and I'll still try and get some more. But thank you to people who have given me questions, and some really good ones too. Some that I've never even seen in Q&As that I've watched of other reviewers. So you got some pretty good ones coming. I just saw Rec last weekend, which is a Spanish zombie movie, and so I'll probably film the review for that tomorrow with a friend of mine. That'll probably be up tomorrow, and I think I have one more thing coming. I don't want to say what that is yet because it's a special, but yeah, keep your eyes on the lookout because you got a couple coming this week or next week, or well, I guess 2 weeks, but yeah, I got some coming to you guys. This has been A Talk in Depth.